Growl is a beat-em-up developed and published by Taito for arcades and was released in Japan and North America in 1991. Taito also made other bangers like Legend of Cage and also Ninja Warriors, which I'm going to be reviewing soon, but this game gets the cheese, and it's like if Steve Irwin was an Indiana Jones style action star that rescued animals. A home version was released for the Sega Genesis later the same year, and a censored version was also included in the Taito Legends 2 game compilation that was released on the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and Microsoft Windows. And also Hamster Corporation released the game as part of their Arcade Archive series for the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4 in July of 2023. The game is set in the early 20th century, and you take control of a forest ranger who must protect the local wildlife from poachers who have been hunting the animals to extinction. In the arcade version, there's 4 variations of the game: a common 2-player setting, a 4-player setting with individual coin slots, and multiple other versions available. The game is controlled with an 8-way joystick for moving the character and 2 action buttons that let you attack and jump. You can perform different attacks and finishing moves depending on the position of the enemy. If you press both buttons while surrounded by enemies, you can perform a special attack and strike every nearby enemy. You begin the game by choosing from one of 4 different forest rangers, each with a different amount of health, attack strength, and jump height, all listed in a stats menu. And you get your weapons by destroying barrels and wooden crates or disarming certain enemies. There's a total of 8 weapons that can be obtained, and there's 3 melee weapons. You get a pipe, a sword, and a whip, the whip being my favorite because it makes me think of Indiana Jones. You also get 2 throwing weapons, knives and hand grenades, and 3 firearms, including a revolver and an M16 assault rifle. And you also get the 4-barreled flash-style rocket launcher, which is probably one of my favorites. And honestly, the weapons really make the game, because I noticed that a few times I was left without a weapon and it kind of became a little bit of a slog when I was only left with my hand-to-hand combat skills. So in my opinion, the game's weapons are an essential part of having a fun experience. Something else I loved was how the animals are going to help you in each level. In one level, you get some bird helpers, and then in another level, you might have bucks running across the screen, trampling enemies. Or even better, a giant elephant that comes to thank you for rescuing it by trampling everyone in the area. There's 7 stages in all, but they're called rounds, and there's a bonus game for a total of 8 stages. Unfortunately, there's only one bonus game that has you rescuing some birds from cages, but it was still very satisfying and comes with a little reward in the form of helpers later in the game. As for the locations, you'll be put into a city, a moving train, a boat, a jungle, a cavern, and a hideout for the poachers. And the stages blend together seamlessly, like most games from the time, with only a brief pause to tally scores before moving you into the next area. One thing I will note is that there's only 6 types of enemies in the game, but it's not something you're going to notice because you're always getting bombarded by so many different enemies on screen at once. And it's one thing that I really like, the way the game really pushed the limits of the on-screen enemies. The initial reception for the game was overall pretty good. Game Machine listed Growl on their March 1991 issue as being the 2nd most successful arcade unit for that month. But is it worth playing today, and does it deserve a remake? Well, if you've never played this game and you're not prone to seizures from all the flashing lights, then I'm gonna say it's a must play. From the moment the first level started, I was cracking up, wide-eyed, and ready to play. The game's a non-stop brawl, and it's always fun to play a game with high action and unexpected surprises. I mentioned a censored version earlier because in the game, some of the enemies will literally explode. And it's honestly hilarious, but I guess at the time it probably wasn't as popular or as normalized as it might be today. I really did like the level variety though, and the ridiculous amount of enemies that would be thrown my way. The animal helpers were also a memorable and amusing highlight, which kept the game interesting. The final boss is also notable, but I won't spoil it because the game really takes the idea of a twist ending to the extreme, but it's still a surprise worth seeing for yourself. So if you have an extra 30 minutes, it's definitely worth the time. And if you have a buddy to take on the madness with, then that's even better. 6 out of 10 though, great game, but points off for too much flashing lights. But if you can handle it, it's definitely worth the play. Anyways, that's all I got for today. Just want to say thanks for watching and catch you in the next one.